Have you ever stopped to wonder how much of our history is real, how much is missing, and how much has been erased? We've been told that human civilization began just a few thousand years ago, that before that, people lived in caves, hunted animals, and barely knew how to use fire. That progress came slowly, one invention at a time. But what if that's not the whole story? What if, long before the pyramids were built, long before ancient Mesopotamia, there was a civilization so advanced that its machines make our modern technology look like toys? A civilization so powerful, it could bend energy, matter, and even the mind. I'm talking about Atlantis. You've heard the name before, usually in stories or movies. A lost city swallowed by the ocean, a fantasy for dreamers, a legend, nothing more. But what if Atlantis wasn't just a story? What if it really existed? And more importantly, what if the real secret of Atlantis wasn't just that it sank, but what it left behind? Let's think about this logically. Across the world, from Egypt to South America to under the sea, we find ruins we can't explain. Massive stones cut with surgical precision, monuments aligned perfectly with the stars, and patterns with the same symbols, appearing in cultures that supposedly never met. How is that possible? Some say aliens, others say luck. But there's another theory, one that makes more sense and is far more terrifying. What if all these ancient wonders were built using lost technology? Technology not from the future, but from the deep past, from a time when humanity was more advanced, not less. Many ancient texts speak of a golden age, a time when people lived in peace with wisdom and power. They speak of flying ships, weapons that use vibration and light, healing centers that use sound, and towers that drew energy directly from the earth itself. No wires, no fuel. And in the middle of these stories, always, is Atlantis. Now you might ask, if Atlantis was real and so powerful, why haven't we found it? Why doesn't anyone teach this in school? That's a good question, and it may be the key to everything, because maybe Atlantis was found. Maybe its machines, its knowledge, its secrets did survive, but instead of being shared with the world, they were hidden, buried, silenced. Think about it. What would happen if humanity suddenly had access to unlimited energy? If machines could heal the sick without medicine? If buildings could rise without cranes? And minds could connect without speaking? Would we need billion-dollar industries anymore? Would we need governments controlling our resources? Or would we finally be free? And that is exactly why Atlantis had to be erased. But the truth leaves footprints. And the more we dig, the more we find traces of something the mainstream refuses to admit. Underwater structures, unexplained artifacts, and ancient stories, passed down by cultures with no contact, all describing the same thing: a land of light, a people of power, and machines. Machines that could reshape the world. So what did they build? What kind of technology could still shake the earth thousands of years later? Could some of it still be hidden, waiting to be rediscovered? And if it is, what would happen if we turned it back on? That's what we're about to explore, because this isn't just a mystery about the past. It's a warning, it's a clue, and maybe, just maybe, it's the key to our future. Let's begin. Let's go back, not hundreds, but thousands of years. A time before history was carved in stone, before libraries, before maps, before the rise of Greece, Egypt, or even Babylon. In the shadows of that forgotten age, one story keeps echoing through time, a story of a mighty civilization, a place of wonder, wisdom, and machines. And that story begins with a man named Plato. Now, Plato wasn't just a philosopher, he was one of the most respected minds of all time. A student of Socrates, a teacher to Aristotle, a voice that shaped Western thought. So when he sat down to write about Atlantis, the world listened. In two of his works, Timaeus and Critias, Plato shared something strange. He described a massive island nation, larger than Libya and Asia combined. A civilization filled with palaces, temples, canals, and technology far ahead of its time. But here's the twist. Plato didn't say he invented Atlantis. He said it was real, a true story passed down through generations, from Egyptian priests to Solon the lawmaker to Plato himself. The Egyptian priest had records, ancient scrolls older than any Greek monument, and in them was the tale of a once great civilization, a civilization that thrived over 9,000 years before Plato's time. And if we trust those records, that would place Atlantis long before any known advanced culture. But Plato didn't stop at broad claims. He described it in detail. He spoke of concentric rings, land and water, perfectly engineered. He described bridges, tunnels, irrigation systems, and even massive stone buildings. He mentioned rare metals, powerful fleets, advanced agriculture, and planned cities. It didn't sound like myth. It sounded like a blueprint, a memory of something real. But why would Plato, a man known for reason and logic, tell such a story? Some say it was a warning, a parable about power and pride. But Plato himself was clear. He believed it was history, and the more we look around the world, the more we find clues that support his claim. In the Americas, stone structures older than pyramids. In the Mediterranean, ruins submerged deep underwater. In Egypt, monuments that seem more ancient than we thought. And scattered throughout these places are symbols and shapes, spirals, rings, perfect alignments that match Plato's Atlantis. Could it be that Plato wasn't imagining anything at all? Could it be that his story was a retelling of something the world forgot? And that brings us to a deeper mystery, because Plato wrote about the fall of Atlantis, not as legend, but as a sudden, violent event. He said Atlantis tried to conquer the world, that its people became corrupt and arrogant. And then, in a single day and night, the entire island sank beneath the sea. It's a chilling detail, because other ancient cultures tell similar stories. Floods, great destruction, civilizations wiped out overnight. The Bible speaks of the Great Flood. Hindu texts talk of cities swallowed by the ocean. Even Native American legends describe ancient people who disappeared underwater. Could they all be remembering the same thing? A global disaster, one that destroyed a world we never knew existed, and maybe, just maybe, Atlantis wasn't just one city. Maybe it was one of many advanced cultures, one that left behind ruins, machines, and myths scattered across the earth. And that's what makes Plato's account so important, because it's not just a story, it's a bridge, a link between the world we know and a world we've forgotten. He described their values, their inventions, their rise and their fall. And through it, he left us with a question. What if we're not the first advanced civilization? What if the true story of Earth is deeper and far older than we've been told? What if the machines, the knowledge, the power of Atlantis were real? And what if some of it still survives? What kind of technology did Atlantis really have? That question has fascinated people for centuries, because if Plato was right, if Atlantis was real, then it wasn't just a powerful empire, it was a civilization with machines and energy systems unlike anything we've ever seen. But here's where it gets truly strange. The Atlanteans, according to many ancient stories, didn't use machines made of steel and oil like ours today. Their technology was different. It was cleaner, quieter, and far more advanced in ways we still don't fully understand. You see, in some of the oldest texts and accounts, from mystics, explorers, even modern researchers, there are whispers of something called the Firestone, a crystal, but not just any crystal. This was said to be a massive, radiant source of energy. Placed in the heart of their greatest temple, it pulsed with light and sound, drawing energy from the earth itself. This firestone may have powered entire cities. No wires, no smoke, no pollution. Now, think about that. An ancient civilization using wireless energy pulled straight from the planet? That idea might sound impossible until you remember names like Nikola Tesla. He dreamed of creating a system to transmit electricity through the air, without wires, and his work was mysteriously shut down. But the concept? It wasn't new. Some believe it was a rediscovery of something the Atlanteans had already mastered. They weren't just building machines, they were building systems, designed to work with nature, not against it. There are even stories of machines that floated using sound. Imagine that, not using fuel or engines, but using frequencies to lift objects, just like a feather on sound waves. It sounds like science fiction, but modern science has already shown that sound can move particles. It can lift small objects using focused vibration. We're only beginning to understand what sound can really do. And Atlantis? They may have been using it thousands of years ago. Some accounts mention sonic chambers, rooms filled with vibration and light, not for entertainment, but for healing. These weren't ordinary hospitals. They were advanced energy spaces where damaged tissue could be restored, using only sound and frequency. Think of the possibilities: no surgery, no drugs, just energy tuned perfectly to the body's natural rhythm. A type of medicine we're only beginning to rediscover today, and it goes deeper. Many believe that Atlantis wasn't just powered by crystal energy, it was built on something far older, the Earth's natural energy grid. Ancient cultures across the planet built sacred sites on specific points, aligned with the Earth's magnetic fields. Stonehenge, the pyramids, Machu Picchu. They all sit on powerful lines of energy some call ley lines. And Atlantis? According to these theories, it sat at the center of this entire grid. It didn't just use energy, it flowed with it. Everything was designed with harmony, architecture, movement, even thought. Their cities weren't just places to live. They were energy machines. And maybe that's why their technology feels so alien to us today. Because it wasn't based on control. It was based on connection, connection to nature, to sound, to vibration, and to the earth itself. And that kind of technology, a technology that used power without pollution, could explain a lot. Why Atlantis became so powerful, why it rose so fast, and maybe even why it had to fall. Because the more they tapped into that energy, the more they shaped nature around them, the greater the danger became. Some believe they pushed it too far, that the crystal, the fire stone, became unstable. Or maybe the energy grid itself reacted violently. There are whispers of a final surge, a pulse that shattered the island and pulled it beneath the sea in a single night. Not just a flood, a system collapse, a warning that too much power without balance can destroy even the greatest civilizations. And yet, the story doesn't end there. Because if Atlantis did exist, if their technology was real, then maybe, just maybe, some of it still survives, hidden in ruins, encoded in symbols, waiting to be found, waiting for us to remember. If Atlantis really had powerful machines, if they truly mastered energy, sound, and vibration, then the question becomes, where is the evidence? Well, maybe it's been in front of us the whole time, scattered across the earth, in places we still can't fully explain, are clues, structures, stones, ruins, that feel wrong for their time. Let's start with something strange, just off the coast of the Bahamas. It's called the Bimini Road. Underwater, perfectly aligned stones. A massive path, almost like a highway, resting quietly beneath the sea. Mainstream archaeologists say it's natural, just limestone shaped by erosion. But when you really look, the blocks are cut with sharp angles. They fit together like puzzle pieces, and they stretch across the ocean floor with uncanny precision. Could nature really do that? Or was this part of an ancient seaport? A dock? A bridge? Built long before history says it should be possible? Some believe the Bimini Road is a remnant of Atlantis itself, or at least an outpost, a place where the Atlanteans once landed, traded, or lived. And the story doesn't stop there. Thousands of miles away in South America sits one of the most mysterious ruins on Earth, Pumapunku. At first glance, it looks like broken stones scattered across a dusty field. But look closer, and the questions start piling up. Massive blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, cut with microscopic accuracy, perfect 90-degree angles, smooth drill holes, deep within the stone. All of this, built by a culture that supposedly didn't even have metal tools. no cranes, no advanced math. And yet, these stones look like they were made by a machine, a laser, a factory. Some of them fit together so tightly, not even a blade of grass can slip between them. The official explanation? They carved it with bronze chisels. But have you ever tried carving granite with bronze? It doesn't work. Even today, it's hard to do what Pumapunku shows us, without advanced tools. So where did this knowledge come from? Many believe that Pumapunku was either built by a lost civilization or by one that inherited knowledge from someone else. Someone older, smarter, maybe Atlantean. And there's more. The Giza Plateau in Egypt. We all know about the pyramids, but what most people don't know is that the entire layout, the geometry, the angles, the positioning of the structures lines up with astronomical precision. The Great Pyramid alone has more mystery than we can fit in a single video. Its base is nearly perfectly level. Its dimensions encode mathematical constants, pi, the golden ratio, even the speed of light. Who builds something like that without calculators, computers, or satellites? And more importantly, why? Some say the Giza Plateau wasn't just a tomb site, it was a power center, an energy machine, built at a specific spot where Earth's natural energies are strongest. These places, Bimini, Pumapunku, Giza, they all sit on planetary grid points, intersections of magnetic and energetic lines that some researchers call ley lines. And when you map these places, a pattern begins to emerge, one that seems intentional. Could it be that these sites are connected, not just by trade, but by design? Like chapters in a forgotten book, each telling part of the same ancient story, a story of a world before ours, where energy was harnessed in ways we no longer understand, where knowledge flowed across oceans long before we think it could have, where lost cities like Atlantis may have seeded their wisdom across the planet. And here's something even more mysterious. In the ruins of these places, we often find something missing. No writing, no blueprints, no explanations, just perfect cuts, silent stones, and questions. It's almost as if someone erased the instructions, like a blueprint burned before it could be copied. Or maybe the people who built them were never meant to explain. Maybe they believed the knowledge would return when the world was ready. And as we've seen in our earlier sections, maybe that's exactly what's happening now. Because modern science is starting to catch up. Engineers have looked at Pumapunku and admitted, we don't know how they did this. Energy researchers are studying the Giza Pyramid and asking, was this more than just a tomb? And deep-sea explorers are still scanning the waters near Bimini, hoping the ocean gives up more of its secrets. Piece by piece, the mystery of Atlantis is coming back into view. And maybe, just maybe, the real question isn't whether these places are connected to Atlantis. The real question is, what else are we still missing? Because if this evidence has been sitting in plain sight, ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood, then what other clues lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered? The answer might take us even deeper into the next chapter, where we ask, is modern science now rediscovering what Atlantis once knew? If Atlantis really had powerful machines, if they mastered sound, energy, and the secrets of the Earth itself, then one question begins to haunt the entire story. Why was it erased? Why would such a brilliant, advanced civilization disappear so completely that many still call it a myth? Let's stop and think. We've seen evidence, strange ruins, impossible stones, technology that seems to echo across time, but none of it is recognized by mainstream history. None of it is taught in our schools. None of it is admitted in the official story of humanity. Why? Some say it's just a mystery lost to time, but others believe something much deeper, much darker. The destruction of Atlantis wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a natural disaster. It was deliberate. It was erasure, not of a city, but of a threat. Because Atlantis, as the legends say, held something far more powerful than gold or weapons. It held freedom. Freedom from war, freedom from control, freedom from systems that feed on fear and dependency. Imagine a world where energy is free, where machines run on sound and frequency, not fossil fuels, where healing comes not from pills, but from vibration and harmony. Now imagine what that world would do to those who profit from the one we have now. Some researchers believe Atlantis discovered something dangerous, not dangerous to humanity, but to power itself. They tapped into the natural forces of the earth, energy grids, sound-based tools, cleansing technologies that could end disease, hunger, maybe even death. If that knowledge were to spread freely, what would happen to those in control? To kings, to rulers, to empires built on keeping people small? And so, some believe Atlantis was silenced, not just destroyed, but buried, its machines dismantled, its cities pulled into the sea, its memory turned into a fairy tale. Because if people believe Atlantis is a myth, they won't look for its truth. They won't ask questions. They won't study the old ruins. They won't unlock what the ancients once knew. And maybe that's exactly the plan. There are whispers in ancient texts, stories passed down through centuries, of a warning that Atlantis became too powerful, too arrogant, too independent, that it defied the gods or the cosmic order. But what if those stories were rewritten? What if the truth was that Atlantis didn't fall because it was evil, but because it refused to be controlled? Some texts say Atlantis tried to share its knowledge, that it sent teachers to Egypt, to India, to Mesoamerica. And in those places we see echoes, pyramids, star maps, myths of sky beings and glowing machines. But not long after, many of those ancient cultures were conquered, their knowledge burned, their temples looted, their books destroyed. Is it coincidence? Or was it part of a much older war, a silent war against truth itself? And still, pieces survived, in symbols, in stone, in myth. Enough to spark curiosity, enough to raise questions. Because here's something to think about. If you wanted to erase a civilization forever, you wouldn't just destroy its buildings. You'd twist its memory. You'd call it a legend, a bedtime story, a metaphor. You'd make sure no one takes it seriously, and you'd do everything you could to make sure no one ever tries to rebuild it. But maybe that's what's happening now. Maybe the reason Atlantis is rising again in our minds and in our conversations is because its story never truly died. Because no matter how deeply you bury the truth, truth remembers. And now we're beginning to remember too. One ruin at a time, one strange artifact, one whisper from history, telling us that something powerful was taken from us, something that once gave people hope, vision, possibility. And if Atlantis was truly erased, the next question becomes even more important. What else have we forgotten? And more importantly, what are we finally ready to remember? We've talked about the erasure of Atlantis, the deliberate silencing of a civilization too advanced, too independent, too free. But here's the question that refuses to stay buried. What if Atlantis never truly disappeared? What if pieces of it survived? Not as cities rising from the ocean, but as ideas, as secrets, as whispers, passed from one generation to the next, hiding in plain sight. Look at history closely, and patterns begin to appear. Certain symbols, certain numbers, stories of light, energy, and harmony with the earth. Stories that don't belong in the timelines we've been given, but refuse to fade. Some researchers believe that when Atlantis fell, not everything was lost, that some of its knowledge, its most powerful discoveries were preserved, hidden, protected, passed down, through secret societies, through hidden texts, through initiates who knew they carried something dangerous and sacred. Think of the ancient mystery schools of Egypt, the lost libraries of Alexandria, the carefully guarded teachings of the Essenes, the Gnostics, the Druids. All these groups spoke of a forgotten age, a golden time when humans were connected to the earth and to something far beyond it. They spoke of light that heals, sound that builds, energy that flows freely from the air itself. And now, think of modern names, people who seem to be ahead of their time. Nikola Tesla, a man who dreamed of wireless energy, who spoke of frequency, vibration, and tapping into the power of the planet itself. He claimed the Earth could provide unlimited power, clean, silent, and free. And then, his funding vanished. His lab was raided. His patents disappeared. Coincidence? Or did he touch something he wasn't supposed to? Some say Tesla didn't discover anything new. He was remembering, reinventing, rediscovering what the Atlanteans already knew. And he wasn't the only one. Other inventors, other thinkers, from obscure labs in Europe to quiet corners of America, people began building machines, strange devices that resembled ancient tools, machines powered by sound, devices that produced energy from the air, structures that vibrated in tune with the earth. And just like Atlantis, these discoveries were either ridiculed or erased, but they keep appearing, a repeating pattern: discover, suppress, forget, rediscover. Maybe that's the legacy of Atlantis. Not a city rising from the waves, but an echo, a ghost in our science, a voice in our inventions, a blueprint embedded in the earth, waiting to be remembered. Think about how fast technology has grown. Just in the past 100 years, from fire to flight, from wires to wireless, from coal to quantum. Where is it all coming from? Is it just progress? Or are we catching up to something we once had and lost? Some researchers believe there are still places, deep underground, hidden in mountains, beneath ancient ruins, where remnants of Atlantean machines remain, guarded, sealed, sleeping. And some believe that those who know don't want the world to know, because this knowledge isn't just about energy or machines. It's about freedom. Freedom from the systems that control us. Freedom from the lies we've been taught about our past and our potential. If Atlantis influences us today, it's not through monuments. It's through possibility, through the feeling that we were once greater, once wiser, once more connected to each other, to the earth, to the stars. That feeling isn't just nostalgia, it's a memory, and memories don't die. They resurface in symbols, in dreams, in minds brave enough to ask, what if we've been here before? And what if even now Atlantis is still reaching out, not to show us who they were, but to remind us who we could be again? So, after everything we've uncovered together, after traveling through ancient legends, lost knowledge, and hidden truths, we return to one burning question. What did they really build in Atlantis? Maybe it wasn't just machines in the way we understand them, not giant robots, not towers shooting lasers into the sky. What if the greatest things they built weren't even made of metal? What if they built balance, a system where technology served life, not controlled it, where energy came from nature, not from burning it, where machines weren't just tools, but bridges between body and mind, between human and earth, between what we know and what we've forgotten? Some say the Atlanteans had healing chambers, devices that use sound, vibration, and light to restore the body. Not pills, not surgery, just pure frequency, realigning us to the way we were meant to be. They speak of towers that pulled power from the air. No wires, no pollution, just harmony with the planet. They talk of crystal-based technology, of consciousness-enhancing devices, of tools that worked with intention, not force. And here's what's truly wild. The more we study the ancient world, the more it feels like they knew something we don't. Or maybe something we used to know and lost. Think back to the last sections. We explored machines that sound like fiction, but may have been real. We followed the clues that lead from ancient stones to modern inventions. We asked why this knowledge keeps disappearing, why it's hidden, ridiculed, or destroyed. Why? Because if it's true, if even a fraction of it is true, then it changes everything. It means we're not the peak of civilization. We're a civilization that's rebuilding, trying to remember. And maybe, just maybe, Atlantis didn't vanish to be forgotten. Maybe it was buried so the truth could wait. For the moment someone would finally ask the right question, someone like you. And now you're here, wondering, questioning, not just watching history, but feeling it tug at something inside you. A memory, a possibility, a truth we were never supposed to find. Because maybe we're not just uncovering the past. Maybe we're rediscovering the future, a future they already lived. One we can build again, if we're willing to see beyond the stories and listen to what's been calling us all along. Atlantis may be gone, but its message? It's still echoing, right here, right now, in the machines we dream of, in the questions we dare to ask, in the power we remember we still have. And if this journey made you feel something, a spark of wonder, a moment of truth, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more mysteries they never wanted us to remember, because this is only the beginning.